Assuring individuality. How do you make sure that every student comes out with a meaningful work of art that is different from their neighbor's work? There are 7 ways that I use to approach an art project to make sure that we don't have a cookie cutter ending where every project looks the same as the next. We're not a sweatshop. Art has to be expressive, otherwise it's not art. And this can be done from kindergarten through 12th grade. I have done it, and it works, and we come up with some amazing results. So one way to do that is what I call broad selection. So giving choices that fit within your unit of study, individuality is more assured. You can put possible selections into a hat for students to choose from. Think of a broad way to incorporate that idea so students can create their own direction as they work through the problem of the project. I always think of art as problem solving, so the teacher gives the students the problem and the materials to solve the problem. In a tab class, they may be able to use all materials available to them or that have been taught to them. And in my case, I tend to give them a choice of a few different media. In the beginning of the year, they have one particular media to work with, but then they have many ways to approach that particular theme. So an example of this is you can have them each pick a famous quote from history. It could be art history or history in general. Because every student has a different quote to illustrate, the results will be different. You could illustrate the stanza of a poem or story. Take that story or poem, cut it up into as many pieces as you have students, and then each student gets a different part to illustrate. And then those can be put together in a display in the hallway and show how you are connecting literature to art education, which is always a good thing. You could find a unique idiom from cultural backgrounds. If you look up idioms from France, idioms from Scotland, idioms from Africa or Ghana, different countries will have idioms that are particular to that culture. So if students have to pick an idiom based on their own cultural background, then you're going to build in uniqueness into their final results. You could write your name in Chinese and then include within that writing symbols of things that the students find personally interesting. So I did this with my own name, and the center symbol I turned into an easel to represent me as an artist. So that's another way to kind of build in uniqueness. The second approach that I use to differentiate is going to be called designing solutions. So by creating a situation with an open-ended problem that can have many solutions through design, it can be a great way to build in diverse results. These can often look like engineering problems, but can also be devised as fine art projects. So students could create a tower out of 10 sheets of paper and 1 yard of tape. Everyone is going to have a different solution to that. That can be individual, or you can group students and kind of make a little contest out of it, who builds the tallest tower. You can even make them work silently so that they have to, hand sign things or write down things to solve the problem, which can be a lot of fun. You can create a structure that can hold the weight of 10 textbooks. Design a tree house that will use the tree as a structural element. Create altered books that include 5 sections to represent your own unique life experiences. Using only recycled materials to create a wind sculpture. There are many examples that I have on my website at artedguru.com of these kinds of explorations using design to differentiate. There's another thing I call, the third one is called as if, to create a project as if blank. So you would fill in the blank. So these can be random from a list of possibilities provided by you, or based on student research of topics that they find interesting. So create a project as if you were emulating a chosen artist. So I did a birthday card project with my students like that, and they had to create a birthday card of the artist who was born on their same birthday. So I did a sample of Salvador Dali and included his melting clocks, but then changed out the clocks for party items, birthday party items. So if each student has a different artist, then there's going to be built-in different results. Draw a part of the school as if it was an surreal environment. Illustrate feelings or concepts as if it was an animal. Create your project as if you were expressing an emotional state. creating a project as if you were blind or disabled. I've done this with students where they actually strap a paintbrush onto their heads with a wire that kind of holds the paintbrush, and they kind of look like birds as they were trying to paint just using their heads. So that can be a lot of fun. I've seen a disabled artist actually do that, holding the paintbrush in their mouth, but obviously we don't want to be switching paintbrushes from mouth to mouth. Another way of doing this is called incorporation. So when a project is chosen, have students incorporate a concept that forces individuality. So they could incorporate their own cultural background and choose a fairy tale, animal, idiom, whatever to illustrate. To illustrate an alphabet based on a theme of personal interest. To incorporate a personal point of view, be it politically based or based on conscience or personal choice, into a poster project. Expressing personal traits, whether it's being athletic, shy, lazy, energetic, whatever it is, and incorporate that into whatever it is you're creating. We've done that with bird sculptures where we had a base of a bird essentially, and then if they felt like they could run fast, they'd make it with longer legs. If they felt like they liked to talk with everybody, they'd make a bigger beak, so that each animal had an attribute that connected back to the student who made it. Design an award you wish you could win for your strongest skill, or a skill you wish you could get better at. Using only colors or patterns on a swatch of paper on a given selected image. So I've done this in the fashion design unit, and kids pick from a hat 3 swatches of paper, one with a pattern and maybe 2 colors or something along those lines, and they have to use those as the basis for their dress design or suit design unit. So by doing these, you kind of build in that uniqueness with the end product. Another one is through abstraction and symbolism. You can make sure that you're forcing in unique qualities in the student's work. So they could incorporate symbols of themselves. So they could start by writing a list and then creating a list of symbols that coordinate with those things, and using color and shape and form to express their feelings based on their own personal vocabulary. I do have a book out there called The Emotional Color Wheel that helps walk people through these steps, but I have blog posts at artedguru.com that you can use as well, and those are free. So you could incorporate those symbols of yourself. You could use symbols to represent your likes and dislikes. You can use colors and shapes and forms to express how you feel about a topic. So if you're doing a portrait of somebody you like, you can use forms and shapes and colors that represent you like that individual. Or if it's a portrait of someone you don't like, you can use colors and shapes, again, that show that you don't like that person, or to highlight things that are positive about them and negative about them, just using color and shape to sort of do that through a color vocabulary. It becomes important at the end for students to write about these, so we understand that they're actually using a thought process, that there's a reason behind why they chose blue. It's not, I like blue, it's more like, I use blue because it's a cool color and it represents the person as a quieter personality, or something like that, to get away from, choosing colors arbitrarily. To describe a whole family unit as a painting, a drawing, or even as a sculpture. I do this as a mobile sculpture, kind of like Calder, where each shape represents a different member of the family, and the whole mobile is representing the family unit. After colors and shapes or forms and influence in how people perceive them. So you can alter the colors in a way to kind of change how we feel about something. So you could even take a famous work of art and redo the colors to give it a different emotional value. Another way is to use personal themes to differentiate. So expressing how you feel about a topic or experience that you have had. Death or separation is a topic that you could use. What I am careful of course, is if it's a recent death and it's painful for the student to deal with, they can pick a famous figure or hero that has passed away and use that as their topic. So I always give students an option, so it doesn't have to be personal if it's too personal at the time that they want to do it. To do something based on personal success or an achievement. To do a work of art based on goals that they have for themselves. An artwork based on a bucket list of things that they want to do before they die, or do before they graduate, or do before they get married. Something along those lines, set some parameters. You could use your family as a theme and kind of, again, symbolically representing the people as, animals or spirits or colors and shapes. So by picking the family, every family is unique, so the results will be unique. Or also basing it on a circle of friends or the people in the classroom. So that can be ways to sort of differentiate results. Another way is to make sure that the project includes something about themselves. This can be a literal sense as a self-portrait, which would automatically mean that every project is different, or including yourself within a chosen image. It could also be about including the personification of oneself into the image. So include yourself as a monster, alien, animal, flower, using the self to guide outcomes, like a fish with a big tail representing an athletic kid. I mentioned that about the birds, but it could be done on any sort of theme. Incorporating colors and shapes and patterns that you are wearing that particular day. So everybody's going to be dressed somewhat differently. Unless you're in a parochial school, then maybe you're in uniforms. So you would pick something else, like maybe your outfit on the weekend or when you're going to a party. So these are different ways that you can differentiate, at least 7 of them. And without a doubt, there's going to be some crossover here in some of these ideas. But these are broad types of approaches that I apply to the lessons that I'm creating for my students. If I see that everyone comes out with the same thing at the end of the project, I feel like that lesson has been a failure because I failed to incorporate the students' own personal experiences. You'll also find that when you do this, students will buy into their work better, focus a little bit better because they care, because they're speaking about what's important to them, and making that connection is very important. If you found this helpful, please check out some of my other videos and consider subscribing to this channel. Thank you so much.